And stop videos.
Hi, Liz.
Hey, Maureen.
Hey, Maureen.
Hi, Bridget. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I just ate a delicious Swenson burger that was right in front of my driveway.
Oh, we were out there earlier.
Oh,
Fraser.
Hello.
Chuck, I'm home. How are you? And it was delicious. Hi,
Yeah,
Bridget.
that
How are
was
you?
good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I just ate a delicious Swenson burger that was right in front of my driveway.
Oh, we were out there earlier.
Oh,
Fraser.
Hello. Chuck, I'm home. How are you? And it was delicious.
Yeah, that was good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I just ate a delicious Swenson burger that was right in front of my driveway.
Oh, we were out there earlier.
Oh, hello. I'm home. How are you? And it was delicious.
All right, Mike, it's 7 o'clock. Can I start?
Sounds good, Bridget.
All right, so the Finance Committee will start at 7 p.m. tonight. And the first order of business is Ordinance 2039, authorizing the application and administration for the 2021 TLCI Planning Grant. Mary Kay, can you give us just a little bit on this?
Absolutely. So this grant is through NOACA. We're applying for transportation for a livable initiative grant funding. And we're looking to target Brook Park from our corporation line to the bridge over the Rocky River Reservation. We're going to be looking at pedestrian amenities, traffic improvements, feasibility for better connection to the metro parks. We're going to be trying to get better connectivity with improvements in sidewalks. So it'll be a very interesting study in how we can better accommodate some of our business and still keep that residential aspect on the street.
Is this what our public meeting is about next week?
It'll be just to talk about our application and our intention to follow through with this study. We're hoping to see that we can take the study and implement the recommendations in the 2023 paving program. But the public hearing's a requirement for the application, and I don't foresee anything out of the ordinary that will come up. Hopefully some interest in the project and interest from our constituents for items to include in the study. But other than that, that's about it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions on this one at all?
Nope.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to put this on
Subsequent third.
third read and final passage.
You're going to put it on second and subsequent third reading?
Yes, second subsequent third reading. Mike?
Yes.
Brian's not here tonight. Bill?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, I will vote yes. And Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Next order of business is ordinance 2036, The insurance contract with McGowan. Did everyone see that we received the contract this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe we have someone from McGowan here to talk to us about this.
We do. Hi. Greetings, everyone. Patrick Nisenti here, McGowan Insurance. Thank you for the introduction, Bridget. I don't know, typically we've met face-to-face the past few years, and we've gone through this and sort of did a flyby over each page just to review the insurance that we have. I don't know if that would be appropriate tonight, so you guys let me know what you would want to have happen in these next few minutes.
That sounds good to me. Does anyone have an objection to that?
No.
No, there's a lot of us that are new, so we didn't get to see it before. So that'd be great.
Sounds good, Maureen. Okay, so if you look at the document that I sent, on page 2, it begins the property insurance. And so every year we work with Finance Director Single, and he works with the building department and various departments to figure out the building and the contents level. And so if you see the first line item there, it's $35.2 million. That's a blanket. That's for all the property that the city of Fairview Park owns, everything from a pencil all the way to the Gemini Center and everything in between. So God forbid something were to happen, wipe out the entire city, you would get a check for $35 million. Underneath that, so that's sort of the blanket limit. Underneath that, we have what are called ancillary coverages. We would be here all night if I went through all of them. So I can tell you just some pertinent ones. Pollutant cleanup, that's if there's a fire and some pesticides, or, you know, like a tank spills pesticides or something like that. So we can go on. Portable audio and visual equipment. I mean, some of this stuff isn't. Do you take property off premise? You think about personal computers and things like that, employees taking laptops home. And then valuable papers, that's another one. Very important for municipalities. The cost that it would take to recreate documents is pretty extensive and laborious. So this would pay for the recreation of pertinent and special documents that you have on file. So going on, and you can stop me at any time if you have any questions. Oh, look at this. Thank you, whoever shared the screen. Moving on to page 3, we just have more property coverages outlined as well. We have full replacement cost coverage. That means we give you the cost to replace like new. We have agreed amount coverage, which means we've agreed to insure to $35 million. We're taking your word for it, so we won't hit you with any co-insurance penalties or anything like that. 2 big exclusions, flood and earthquake. Those are excluded on every policy. They need to be bought separately, so that's a big one. And then just general run-of-the-mill exclusions, nothing special in our policy that is any different from anyone else's. These are the typical exclusions that you would find in every policy. So there's no bait and switch here. I know it's easy to say from an insurance guy, but so that's everything with the property coverage. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you describe what would, it's not included the act of terrorism. Can you describe what an example would be for that? Like if we have protests and riots down Lorraine Road and damage was done to City Hall, is that considered an act of terrorism and would not be covered?
No, so an act of terrorism, in order for it to be covered, it needs to be actually declared an act of terrorism federal. Yes, and it needs to meet a certain threshold. So there needs to be, I believe it's up to $300 million worth of damage. So an act of terrorism, they're looking at something like 9/11. They're not looking at some of the protests that we've been seeing that have turned at nighttime, they turn into a little bit more serious matters. So they're not looking at those as quote unquote acts of terrorism. That would be a typical riot or civil commotion. And I never say like 100% it would be covered, but it like events like that have been covered. Yes. So
Right. Thank you.
yes, that wouldn't be considered an act of terrorism. It's a really good question. So next page is page 4. And that is the inland marine policy. Think of this as everything that's mobile. So you would, on this, you would have things like backhoes, skid steers, lawn mowers, any type of equipment that is mobile. So we get this list updated every year from Greg, and he goes to the various departments. So we got a little bit over $500,000 worth of mobile equipment covered, contractors' equipment. And then we have equipment leased and borrowed from others. I believe recently the city rented a crane, if I'm not mistaken. And so that would cover, if you go to Handy Rents or Able Rents and rent a large piece of equipment, that's what that would cover. This coverage is actual cash value. It's just like your auto insurance. If you get in an accident with a 2010 Honda Accord, they don't give you a 2020 Honda Accord. They give you the value of a 2010 Honda Accord. So that's what this inland marine covers. Any questions about the equipment schedule or anything like that? Okay. On to page 5. We have the crime policy. This would cover theft of monetary assets. So any type of embezzlement, any type of dishonesty among employees. Obviously, we know Greg is reputable, would never do this, but we have seen malfeasance in some of the cities that we insure, and there's coverage up to $1 million for any type of employee dishonesty or embezzlement. Forgery or alterations. Someone takes a city check for $10,000 and puts an extra zero on it. Just in case the bank doesn't reconcile that, if the bank doesn't make that right and you're on the hook for it, there would be insurance coverage. Theft of actual money, not that the city has a ton of money, cash on hand, but there would be coverage for that as well. And then any type of robbery or safe burglary. So that is the crime coverage.
On this one, I don't understand the exclusion of criminal acts. Isn't this a criminal act if someone's stealing from us?
That is correct. So typically in the past, I would need to, I'm going to make a list of stuff that I'll email you. So I will email you the actual, because the snippet doesn't make sense. So I'll email you the actual exclusion with a little bit of interpretation. Typically in the past, what it would mean is that, like if Fairview Park is sued, this is my best interpretation right now. If Fairview Park, let's just say, is sued or something happens because someone were to steal $500,000, the city would reimburse Fairview Park, but it would not reimburse or help pay for legal defense costs or anything for the individual that was accused of stealing it.
Okay.
So basically, whoever the thief is on their own, but everyone else would be covered.
Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Next is general liability. Okay. Think of this as you're insuring your premise. It's an icy day. Someone's coming to City Hall to make a complaint. We know Fairview Park citizens never complain, but imagine if one were to complain and just slip and fall walking to City Hall and say that somehow the city of Fairview Park was negligent. There would be sort of there'd probably be a lawsuit. Sovereign immunity, I'm not the legal counsel, but sovereign immunity helps with a lot of the claims that the city deals with. But let's just say there's a breach in sovereign immunity or just something were to happen. This would cover any type of legal defense costs as well as settlements and or judgments against the city. So things of that nature. The big one that we have on here, sort of a hot button issue, you see towards the bottom, it's boxed in about midway through, sexual abuse and molestation. With the rise of just a heightened awareness of this in recent years and a lot of things coming to light. Think about the Boy Scouts filing for bankruptcy. A lot of sports leagues. We recently saw the USA Gymnastics go through this. So unfortunately, these things do happen. So this is a large coverage. We're seeing a lot of carriers sort of strip away coverage. We have not stripped it away. You still have the full $1 million coverage on that. So we see it with coaches and things like that, summer leagues, camps, day camps, and things of that nature. Any questions on general liability? No. Okay. Number 7. Another hot button one. The police across this country are in the news. We have seen a significant uptick in suits against police officers and law enforcement. So this would cover any acts. Generally speaking, the suits that we see brought against the police more often than not are civil rights violations. So things like wrongful detainment, things like any discrimination based on race. So we're seeing a significant uptick in that. So this would cover legal defense costs as well as any settlements or judgments against the law enforcement department. Any questions?
Would this coverage change at all if our officers would have body cams?
No.
Okay.
No, it would not. And a lot of people ask us for our advice, and we always say that we're here to ensure that the law enforcement has insurance, and really we're protecting the citizens, because it's their tax money, it's their assets. So we always recommend the law enforcement, because it's different in every city. The law enforcement do what they believe is best after conversations with the community and after conversations with best practices and other law enforcement. So we don't recommend body cameras, but we also don't not recommend them. The insurance carrier won't give you advice either way.
Okay.
The next, page 8, is public officials liability. Again, just like no citizens of Fairview complain, no one on this call ever makes a mistake. But if a public official were to be accused of any type of malfeasance, backhandedness, sort of like you did this and you enacted this legislation and this is its negative monetary impact on me, and I were to get mad and sue, there would be coverage if there were any. This is sort of like you're the sort of the board of directors of the city, the duly elected board of directors. And so this is any decision that you make where someone says, hey, you shouldn't have done that, and decides to sue. Again, sovereign immunity helps in these cases, but this is a backstop in case sovereign immunity falls through.
So in this one of the exclusions is sexual abuse and misconduct. Would that mean we would not be covered if someone accused us or sued us for sexual harassment?
That is designed, because it's designed for the general liability to take that.
Okay.
The general liability is designed to cover that. So it's excluded underneath this line item so that the general liability assumes it.
Okay. Now, would we have anyone who's covered by that? Do they have to take any sort of classes or programs, training?
No. Very much the same as law enforcement. We trust you to do your jobs. You know your citizenry, and you all are equipped by the citizens to make decisions on their behalf. If you ever have any questions on what like-minded cities are doing, what best practices are, we'd be happy to send some of those to you regarding sort of any topic. But we will always stop short of saying, like, the city needs to govern in this manner, or you need to take these 6, training modules in order for coverage to be enforced. Page 8. Excuse me, page 9. Employment practices liability. This is for, just think of wrongful termination, failure to promote. You didn't hire someone based on a protected class. Think about any race, age, religion, national origin, disability status, any of those accusations come against the city. There would be a lawsuit, and then if there's any action brought by, let's just say like the EEOC or something of that nature. So that's what this protection is for. $1 million of coverage with a $5,000 deductible.
This one says its retroactive date is 97.
That's correct.
Does that mean any public official that served back then is still covered, or well, I don't understand.
Yes. So anyway, without getting too technical, there are two types of coverages. There's occurrence coverage, and then there's claims made coverage. Some of these coverage items are occurrence and some are claims made. Occurrence is when the claims trigger is when the event happened. So if someone slipped and fell in 2005, but they don't sue you until 2020, if it's an occurrence policy, the 2005 policy will kick in force because it's when the occurrence happened. This policy is a claims made policy. So what this is saying, if someone was terminated in 2005 and they don't sue you until 2020, the 2020 policy is kicking in for employment practices. So the 1997 date is saying if someone's terminated in 1996, we won't honor that claim. You're on your own. So, and I believe that was the first date that the city bought the coverage, and that's why that date exists. Next page, page number 10, auto policy. $1 million of automobile liability insurance. That is for any at-fault accidents that any city vehicle is involved in. We have just minor uninsured, underinsured motorist liability. We do have hired and non-owned in case you're renting vehicles. No one travels anymore, but in the past, sometimes you would go to a conference in Columbus and you would rent a car. That would be for a car that you didn't own. And then we have, in addition to that, so this is the liability, we have comprehensive and collision coverage on every single vehicle. The deductibles are different depending on if it's a private passenger vehicle or if it's a fire truck, which I know everyone here knows. We had an incident with the fire truck, unfortunately. So that's what that auto, we all buy it. So that one's pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's any questions about the auto coverage. No. Okay. Next page, page 11 is the excess policy or the umbrella. Over everything that I just mentioned, I've pretty much across the board, there's been $1 million of liability coverage. There is a $5 million umbrella over all of it for a total of $6 million in almost every case of coverage. So when you see that there's 1 million of auto, you can remember to add the umbrella, and there's really 6 million. So general liability, public officials liability, employment practices, auto, employers liability, law enforcement, and abuse and molestation. All of those have the full limits of the umbrella. Any questions?
No.
Nope. Next page, cyber policy. We have $2 million policy. Think about, when you think of cyber policy, think of two things. Number one, think of the cost of repairing your system. So someone hacks into your system, puts spyware, ransomware, and crashes all of your servers. You have to pay to repair all of that. You've got to pay forensic IT fees. You've got to pay your IT you got to buy new servers, maybe some new hardware. That costs a lot of money. So that's first party coverage for you. Then the next one, think of third party coverage, is if there's an accidental breach and any type of sensitive data, social security numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, credit card numbers, anything of that nature. So you have to worry about your own system and then any third party information like your citizens' information. This is coverage for both of those things. So we have $2 million of coverage. It covers things like regulatory action, any PCI fines. I doubt you're processing many credit cards, but it's just thrown in there. Computer forensics. So you have to go in and investigate what happened. Notification costs. You're going to have to notify everyone that was breached. And then credit or identity protection. If anyone was a part of that Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield breach, I was. They paid for me to have credit checks for 2 years. And then any type of crisis management. If you know Hennis Crisis Communication, he's probably the most well-known around here. Most people choose him. Any type of public relations that you need to get out, you need to get the message out, what happened. You're going to have to hire crisis communications. And then media liability, that's in case there's issues with your website. And then we have some business interruption, which doesn't really impact the municipality. Mostly people are still going to be paying taxes, but that's a throw-in as well. So any questions about the cyber? Okay. And then, sorry. There's one thing that I forgot, and that was the workplace violence. We just added that last year. So my apologies. It's an updated one I just sent to the mayor and Liz. So my apologies. We added it last year. It was a separate part of the proposal. That's in case there's a act of violence or an active shooter. We have $1 million worth of coverage there as well. So there will be an updated proposal. I apologize for that. In addition, you'll notice that this is a fun one. I don't have pricing yet. Greg and I had to re-underwrite our file this year. The carrier requires it about every 5 years. So the process Greg did great, but the process is a bear. We had to go through every building. We had to re-underwrite every single question, all your protocols. I would imagine we're going to get final pricing in the next week or two. It will be a week before the renewal. I know that for sure. So I think we gave you a not to exceed number that was approved. I don't know if Greg can speak to that because I wasn't a part of that meeting, but my apologies. It's probably the most important part is not here.
Patrick, it's Greg. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So Patrick, the legislation has been through 2 readings. It's scheduled, if council moves it to a 3rd reading, that would be on the 19th. And I believe we left the not to exceed, I have to look at the ordinance, but I believe we left the not to exceed the same, this is the same amount as last year.
It's 190,000.
Okay.
So what are
we talked, your thought was it may increase, the premium may increase 10 to 11% mainly due to the claim for the fire truck?
Yeah, well, we have a few factors. One is we had a $100,000 claim due to the fire truck, so that one was significant. We are seeing upward pressure. Unfortunately, you would think with COVID that things are improving with insurance rates because we're all getting 10 or 20% back from our auto carriers. Unfortunately, we are seeing a huge uptick in law enforcement lawsuits. We are seeing an uptick in public officials lawsuits. We're seeing a huge uptick in a lot of lawsuits. So the 190 number, my guess is we're going to come in under 170, Greg. So I know we always put a buffer in the not to exceed number for any capital projects, but I would imagine we're going to see about a 10% increase. That is correct.
Any other questions from council?
No, I don't have any. Patrick, thank you so much for going through this with us. I found that to be very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Patrick, I guess, when will we have the exact number? Greg.
If you're looking for a reading on the 19th, I can push as hard as I can, and will push as hard as I can. If you want it by next Monday, I will move, as much as possible. I will throw my weight around here.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome, everyone. And Greg, I believe Liz now has my contact info, and the mayor does as well. If anyone has any questions, I'm a phone call or an email away. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
So Greg, I have a question for you about and it's more of like a process of this, because this is a lot of money. And I know that contracts like this do not go in front of the Board of Control. So do you get quotes from other insurance companies, and then you've decided, because the first whereas was that, or second whereas is that it's determined by the finance director the best service the city needs. So do you shop this out, or how is the process since the Board of Control is not involved?
Is Patrick still on the line, or did he drop off? Sounds like he might have dropped off.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay, you want to walk through the process and how often you shop it, why you don't shop it every year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I can try, but I would defer. Bridget, so before Patrick starts, McGowan's the broker. So McGowan works on our behalf to go out and, number one, make certain that there's adequate coverage for each product, and then two, to find the most competitive price for the community. And three, when we have claims, we work through McGowan and they work through the adjuster to make certain that the claims are adjudicated properly and at the best price. So Patrick, if you want to walk through how you go back and forth with the underwriters at the insurance companies, every 3 years or so you go out and shop it in the market. You want to walk through that process? I think that would be helpful for council.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe the relationship with McGowan and the city has gone back decades. So the relationship with Fairview Park and me as your particular broker goes back 4 years. So generally speaking, every 3 to 5 years, and we work with Greg on this, depending on the marketplace, we will canvass the marketplace with your information and solicit bids and get the best bid possible and present that to council. Last year we did this. We were with a company called Argonaut, and last year we did this, and Zurich was able to bring the pricing down, I believe, between 5 and 10%. I'd have to go back to last year's numbers. So we had a price decrease this last year with an increase in newer vehicles and updated vehicles. So we were able to do it last year. So even with the 10% increase, like historically, the rates have been very stable. So that's kind of our process. Unfortunately, if we were to put this out to bid every year, if a city were to do that, what ends up happening is carriers no longer desire to bid on your business because they bid on it 10 years in a row and they never get it. And so they don't take you seriously. So we have to balance the fact that we want carriers to bid and bid aggressively, and we want them to know that they want to be aggressive. So typically With Greg, we do it every 3 years. That's been our historical path, and we were able to do it last year and save money.
Okay. Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I know we received this contract late, so, but since Patrick walked through it all, I don't know if anyone still has lingering, any questions or anything? All right, then I'm going to make a motion to put this on third read and final passage for next Monday then. Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
I'm going to vote yes. And Greg?
Yes.
Okay. That passes. Then the only other item that I had on it was for the budget. I kind of wanted Greg just to give us what to expect as we close out 2020, since we have so many new people here. And yeah, so Greg, if you'd like to just let us know what's in store for us.
Sure. First, if Patrick's still on the line, I just want to thank him, and you can drop off now, Patrick. I think we're done with that part of the agenda. As far as the end of the year here, and as we start to look at the 2021 budget, so what will happen is that we will be sending up to City Council here, probably within the month, an appropriation change ordinance. And I typically just ask council to allow that to go 3 reads so that it gets approved at the last council meeting of the year, which is usually mid-December. And I ask for it just to continue to go through the 3 reads and refer it back to committee just in case there are any changes. In addition, years past, we've sent up a temporary appropriation ordinance for council to consider and approve. That gives the city spending authority through the first 3 months of the following year. I know in years past, we've talked about passing a permanent budget prior to year end. In order to do that, we would most likely have to ask council to suspend the 3 readings to get it passed by year end. And then also, we would be coming back to City Council early in the first quarter of the following year for adjustments and amendments. We do not receive our property tax estimates from Cuyahoga County until right around the middle of December. So in order to put something up in front of council, we would have to estimate our property tax collections and revise those once in the first quarter of the following year. I like the temporary budget because it allows the city to be very cautious through the first quarter of the following year. Gives us a little bit of time to ferment our numbers, work with the department heads, assess our income tax collections, have conversations with Rita to finalize our estimates for that year. So I like the passing a temporary budget. I know some individuals don't like that, but I like the fact that, again, we could be even more cautious than we are and kind of slow expenditures down and really assess where our property tax and income tax collections are coming in at for the current year. So you'll see 2 pieces of legislation coming up within the next month. Again, one, the final appropriation for 2020, and then a temporary appropriation for 2021. And we would just follow the same schedule as we did this year and have a budget hearing in February and then have everything approved by the end of March.
We can't request to have the 2021 budgets from department heads like in 6 weeks from now. Wouldn't they have an idea of what their capital spending will be, or no?
We can request, they provide their operating and their capital needs as well. I know some cities just pass an operating budget by year end for the following year, and then they come back to council with their capital improvement budget right around the first quarter, early second quarter of the following year, once they know which streets that they want to do and what other capital needs that they want to address with city council. There's just a lot of uncertainty this year, as you know.
Right.
With this pandemic that we're working through, and even if we pass a permanent budget by the end of this year, we would be right back in front of city council, early next year, working through capital needs and adjusting for the operational changes that may occur.
Additionally, there were a lot of capital things that were put off this year because of the pandemic. We weren't sure where we were going to be. And so, we're going to need some time to assess what we didn't do, assess what we need to do, assess what we can do based on all the uncertainties. So I think it would be, quite a challenge to do that in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Additionally, as Greg mentioned, I think it's a little more of a conservative approach in handling it the way that it has in the past. I know we did talk about it, this year during the budget about maybe coming to council before the end of the year. Unfortunately, I just don't think this is the year to do that, because of all the things that have happened. So, and I think at this point, conservative approach is a good approach.
All right, does anyone else have anything about budget? All right, then that's all I have today for Finance Department. It concludes at 7:41 p.m.
Thanks, Bridget. Sarah, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you guys so much for the courtesy of moving some things around. I needed to be in the Board of Zoning and Appeals meeting a little bit earlier, so I did step out for a minute, but I am back. So the Local Government and Community Service Committee will begin at 7:41 p.m. And so during our last committee meeting, we discussed the topic of racism and its impact on our community. We set forth several goals, one of which we're going to tackle tonight. So I would like to discuss creating an anti-racism task force. So making a large assumption that we are going to create a task force, tonight I'd like to talk about what is this group's objectives? What is this group's core values? What is the makeup of the board, meaning how many members, where do they come from? Are there any specific, requirements for them to be appointed? What is the length of the appointment? What is the estimated time commitment we're talking about? So are we talking about 1 meeting a month, 2 meetings a month, 1 meeting a quarter? What is the process for being appointed to the group? And what is the budget that we're going to assign to the group, among whatever else you guys would like to talk about? So Mike, being that you had kind of brought this up, would you like to start the conversation with what you believe the objectives of this group should be?
Well, I believe they should just begin meeting and research the issues and bring them back to the administration with recommendations.
Is there going to be a mission statement?
Yeah,
I think there should be.
Yeah, well, resolving the issue of racism in Fairview Park.
So I think to solve is a really large thing. What about to understand the topic of racism as it pertains to our community? And make recommendations to eliminate racism, so to understand the topic of racism as it pertains to our community and make recommendations to eliminate racism and make sure all citizens are welcome, or something like that. All citizens,
Well,
visitors.
We should probably have something drafted in writing, I would imagine.
well,
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope after this meeting. I'm taking some really good notes.
Yeah, I think I did send Lakewood's ordinance around. I don't know if anyone looked at that, but
I did.
they've got a pretty good template that we could follow.
Well, how about if we promote diversity and inclusion? I think, and use that tact as opposed to, eliminating something that, is hard for some people to address. So I think we need to be more diverse and inclusive in our community. I think that will help address issues that are related to racism. And I think we want to cast a wide net here in getting as many people in the community interested and on board. And I think that's, I think the name of it would matter. I think and using a diversity inclusive task force or something along those lines might be more inclusive in getting people to address this issue.
Yeah, should we come up with our own name?
I think that's just what the mayor set forth. You'd rather the title of this group to be, I don't know, more positive, right, Mayor?
Well, I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking to become
How
diverse and more.
about anti-fascism task force?
Well, I don't know whether we have any fascism here, but
So I took, and just to circle back to it, I took your feedback, Mayor, and the objective is now to understand the topic of racism as it pertains to our community and make recommendations to promote diversity and inclusion in the city of Fairview Park. So if that's the case, what the diversity and inclusion task force would probably make, say it, don't sell it. That would make the most sense. It's right there in their objectives. Does that accomplish what we want to do if we just went that basic?
Sarah?
Yeah.
I do think so. I like what you just read as a mission statement, and I also think taking that as our title of the task force would be a good idea.
That's actually what I was going to tell you is
What about if we throw in the word like coalition or something like that? I feel like the word task force is a little aggressive.
Yeah, I guess commission, coalition.
Like something, something to
give it an active sense. I remember, Sarah, some goals that we went through, to educate council and the community on systemic racism. I think that's, kind of incorporated in that this part of the coalition or committee group, one of their goals is to help the entire community understand systemic racism. And then, as the mayor and you both mentioned, promoting diversity and inclusion. I like the idea that we're kind of promoting a positive, active, role in trying to eliminate, any of the problems that may exist. I like what you read. If you could read again what you read, just so I could kind of digest it more, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. I wish I had screen sharing at the moment. To understand the topic of racism as it pertains to our community and make recommendations to promote diversity and inclusion in the city of Fairview Park.
I like that.
Great.
Sarah, like recommendations for policy change, maybe, right?
Well, I think it could be recommendations for anything.
I think
You know,
saying
I don't think we need,
beneficial, because when you keep it vague, you can include that and include other things.
I think obviously it applies to the operations of the city, but it also, we want it to apply to our city as a whole. I mean,
Right.
and so I think again, we want to promote our city to people, you know, to live here, to work here, to spend time here. So it would again apply to operationally, but also globally. It's so that.
Absolutely. We want to make our community welcoming to all people. I mean, for its 100-year existence, Fairview Park has been basically a white suburban community, and you know, the area is changing, the world is changing, and we want to make sure that Fairview Park is a welcoming place for everybody, and that'll be good for our community and good for its residents, good for business.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, the phrasing that you're using is something that could be included not just with City Hall, but with all businesses, within the schools, you know, any organization, just so they get a better sense of who Fairview Park is on all levels. So I think I really like the wording that you've chosen.
thank you. And I think the delicate balance here is giving this task force or commission or whatever we're going to officially name it, boundaries to understand what it is that we expect of them. But those boundaries cannot be so constraining that it limits their ability. So there's a balance between, we want you to kind of do this, but we don't want to spell out exactly everything you want to do. Which is why I'm going to make recommendations to promote diversity and inclusion somewhat generic, because we don't want to box them into, you know, policy recommendations or governing recommendations or housing recommendations. We want it to be generic enough that they can say, hey, this still applies. And speaking of the name, I looked up just the boards and commissions that we have. We have the Board of Control, the Board of Zoning and Appeals. So those are boards. We have the Charter Review Commission, Civil Service Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, Planning and Design Commission, and Records Commission. We have the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council, and we have the Shade Tree Advisory Committee. So I almost think commission is probably, because that's the naming convention we've used for most of these, the one that makes the most sense.
I agree. I'd rather have commission than task force.
Okay, so let's leave it.
I like Greg's coalition, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. I thought that was a nice, but.
Well, what you want to think about too is a lot of the things you call commissions are either statutorily required by the state of Ohio or through the charter or ordinances. So if you have more of a term on this where, because it's not a required commission like coalition, that would probably be a better way to go, in my opinion, from a legal perspective.
Or leave it task force, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine too, but
yeah.
I'm just.
Okay. We can come back.
Sorry, Sarah.
Oh, no, you're okay. I was gonna say, we can come back to the name. I think of all of this, the name is the least important.
Yes.
So let's kind of keep plugging along. So the question is, what are the core values that we believe this particular coalition or task force should live up to? You know, I'm thinking 4 bullet point items of, you know, everything that they do and all the recommendations that they do need to come back and accomplish these core values. Let me see. Got 15 different screens up trying to figure this out. Hang on. Mike, do you have the Lakewood one in front of you? Because I think they had their values and I'm somehow not finding it on my screen at the moment.
No, but I think off the top of my head, I mean, to protect people who have been historically disenfranchised would be a great first value myself. I mean, because in a nutshell, this is about anti-racism. I mean, sugarcoat it all you want, but
I don't think anybody's sugarcoating it. I think we're just talking about other ideas.
yeah.
So to protect those who've been historically disenfranchised, to promote equity, well, I guess that's
Equality.
maybe, to promote equality. Let's see. Okay, anybody else have anything else to add?
I mean, are you going to repeat any of the ones in the mission statement? Because it would, like, everything you named in there sounds like it would go in there too, and sounds good, but you don't want to be redundant. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I don't know.
We can right now we're just throwing things out there. This isn't, and then we can kind of blend, the mission statement and the values off each other. So I think that's where we're, this is very much a starting point to get the ball rolling.
But I think too, the people that are appointed will have, that's something that they can
Absolutely. I agree 100%, Pat. I mean, we have citizens that are very vocal and literally chomping at the bit to be part of this discussion. I say that we let them get together as soon as possible and brainstorm and get back to us.
So then let's take the core values out. We can leave that as one of their first real assignments.
Absolutely.
What is their core values? So then the question becomes, what is the makeup of the board or commission? Is it 3 members, 5 members, 9 members, 12 members? How many are we thinking?
Lakewood's doing 9, doing 5 appointed by council and 4 by the mayor. But I mean, Lakewood's a bigger city than Fairview Park. I mean, I don't know if we want to. I mean, just we could advertise and see who wants to be involved. I mean,
I think starting with the goal of 9 would be great, because if people can't make every single meeting, then you still will have a good majority of people there and the discussion can still go forward.
I don't have Lakewood's ordinance here, but I do have a Cleveland.com article with Mayor George. It says the group's mission will be to advise and work with the administration to ensure the value of anti-racism is foundational and unambiguously expressed in all city objectives involving safety, housing, education, culture, and community wellness.
9 sounds good as a number, though, I think.
Okay. So if we do 9 members, 5 appointed by council, 4 appointed by the mayor, then council and the administration both get a say in the people who are appointed. Do we want any requirements to be appointed? I know for the Charter Review Commission, one of the things that is a requirement is that they need to be a qualified elector, which means, if I'm correct, they basically just need to be registered to vote here in the city.
I think they just need to be a resident. They don't have to be registered to vote. They just have to be a resident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want a bunch of cumbersome.
I think a resident. I mean, I think. We have a very, I think we have a widespread group of residents who, some of them who are business owners who might want to participate. We have, I think we have a very diverse economic city. I think obviously we all recognize that there's some other areas where we need to become more diverse, but I do think we could get a lot of people across a lot of broad spectrums to serve, people who maybe public health, economic. I think it would be nice to have someone who's a local business owner on the team, coalition, task force, whatever we it is named, but
Mm,
so I think, I don't know if we need to really put out any qualifications besides residency, a resident. I think also, I saw one community, they had a high school student. I'm not sure if he or she was an adult, but I think, obviously, that would be something to, either, something to consider. We just have a wide variety of folks, but I think being a resident being the most important, being really the sole qualification, in
Yeah,
my
and
opinion.
the willingness to make our city a better place to live.
So, and I'm okay with that. What about the idea of, or if you are employed in the city of Fairview Park? If we're looking for some of the business input, some business owners and, managers or even employees do not live in the city of Fairview Park, but they do work here. So do we want to extend it to those who are employed but do not work here, or leave it as those who live here?
I like residency.
I like resident as well. I think absent planning and design, where we have a couple of architects, I think everybody is a resident on all our various boards and commissions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think
this group
a
will have
res-
the ability to invite whoever they want. I mean, as far as expertise or to speak. So
Okay. So how about length of appointment? Do we want to have a 1-year appointment, a continuous appointment? How would we like to do that?
How about like a 2-year appointment? Because I feel like 1 year you would just be starting to get things, you're just getting the ball rolling. So I think at first a 2-year would be great, because then you could kind of get together the focus and almost see it through before we make a change. Just my idea.
great idea.
I think that's a good idea. I think after 2 years, then you may, depending upon where it may go, you want to then consider staggered terms. I think at this point in time, I agree with Bridget. You get the core group together. There's going to be a lot of heavy lifting that they're going to need to do in the beginning. So you want to give people enough time to work together, and at that point, have some better sense of what people's, ability and commitments might be, and then revisit maybe the terms.
Are there any objections to a 2-year appointment? Okay.
I think 2 years fine. One thing I was going to recommend is that we would have this coalition, task force, whatever, but have almost like a make sure that whenever certain meetings that they have, that there's almost like an open invite always to the president of the Chamber of Commerce, possibly the president of Fairview High School Student Council, again, so that people and even within our city, to have, a city representative, someone from the school board, so that they're aware of what these conversations are that are going on, and so that they can kind of constantly be able to give input into what this group is discussing, because we could get a very narrow view sometimes. And I think it's helpful to make sure we have some representation of some form coming from the schools, coming from the chamber as well.
Are these going to be, when they meet, are they going to be public or private meetings?
I would assume they'd be public meetings.
They have to be public.
Okay, that solves that. Then it'd be good to have always public.
Okay. And so how often would we expect this group to meet? My recommendation is once a month or once every other month to keep progress moving. And honestly, on a 2-year appointment, on a volunteer, I'm assuming volunteer, we'll get to that, coalition, I think we'd be hard pressed to get them to meet any more often than that.
I agree.
I think once a month is good.
What times and what days of the week?
I think once a month is a little ambitious for people. To be honest with you, I think every other month, but
Green there.
I think to start though, to just even like the first 6 months, if they could do it every month, just so we can really get the ball rolling, and then you could scale it back to every other month.
I think you need to set a clear expectation, and from what we do from the beginning needs to be what we do throughout.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
I feel like they should be able to make the recommendation to us if they want to adjust the meetings, right? If they're doing every month and they feel that's a little much, that could be their recommendation to adjust it, or if they need to do more, right?
Or maybe we would say required at least 6 meetings per year,
Well,
and more if they deem it necessary. 6
That sounds-
meetings a year doesn't sound too daunting. And then if they start getting on a roll with something, they as a group can say, hey, let's meet again, next week or 2 weeks. But if we just say 6 meetings a year, they can then decide more.
That's a good idea, Maureen.
You're giving 9 people a huge agenda. So they're gonna have to meet maybe more often for the first couple of months to get the game plan going. And then maybe after that, maybe once a month.
Okay.
It's that 3-year council terms. It's to learn everything, and then you're in 6 months, you're up for reelection. So, they have a huge task in front of them right now.
So your recommendation would be sort of like what Bridget said, meet twice a month, every month for the first 6 months. And then if they so deem, they can back it off to once per month.
Yeah, I think that's a
I think
lot.
that's
You're
too
gonna be
much.
asking a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree.
I
You
agree.
have to keep in mind the word volunteer here. You've got volunteers doing this. The harder you push them, the harder it's going to get dedicated volunteers. Do you know what I mean?
Now, let me ask you, Director Riley, are these volunteers, are they held to sunshine laws? So for instance, can they have smaller work groups outside of these meetings? What
They
are
would
their
be-
requirements?
If we set them up as a public body, which we are from what you're discussing, they would have to follow all the sunshine laws, record keeping and all of that.
So
They
then
would
we
have to follow
cannot
everything.
have them, subgroup or meet as is or any of the rest of it. We'd have to have public advertised meetings and all the rest of it.
Right, regularly scheduled public meetings, any special meetings would have to be advertised.
Okay. Thank you for that. Well, then I guess maybe my recommendation would be to ask them to meet once a month. And, maybe we can give them the guidelines that if they feel they need to meet more frequently, then they can create special meetings and we can just make sure that they're advertised. Would that fall within the law, Director Riley?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. And that would then give them the ability to meet every 2 weeks if they felt like they really needed to. But also given the volunteer status, a volunteer status with quite a long appointment term, that we maybe won't turn people off from applying or have them quit 3 months in, right? Does anybody feel like that would be an okay solution there?
Yes.
I still think it's ambitious, but that's, I guess people know that going in, so they'll, that's something that they'll have to be committed to.
Did we say what day of week they meet on or what time?
We did not yet. I would guess probably 7 p.m. based on all of the other boards that we have, right?
I think that's, you just want to appoint them and then let them set their own schedules. I think
I
that's,
agree. I agree. Point them and let them discuss what's best for them.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. All right, so we can do that. So how about the process for how they're being appointed? I assume there will be an application and then an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so given that some are being appointed by council and some are being appointed by the mayor, will people submit either to council or the mayor, to both, or to one group, and then we interview them all together? What is the suggestion for how that is handled? I don't know. For those of you guys who have handled the Charter Review Commission, I know some of those were appointed by council and some by the mayor. So maybe you could give some insight into how that
The Charter Review Commission is entirely the mayor.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Is there,
my-
are there gonna be a chairman, one of the 9?
Yes.
They'll appoint a chairman. That's would be my recommendation. I think you have people submit to the clerk and then to the mayor's office. And then, they can, I think, or maybe we have one centralized location and then it's shared between the mayor's office and council. And then we, can choose from, you guys can interview and then I can review the other applicants and maybe, talk about who, maybe there might be some duplicative choices, but that way, we're all looking at the same people who are interested.
Sounds good.
So I would suggest that we have one centralized place where they submit, because if I can submit either to clerk of council or to the administration, I'm going to submit to both, right? Because that betters my chance. If we have them submitted to one place, there's a good chance that we're not interviewing the same people twice, one in each chamber, and then potentially even appointing. We're trying to appoint the same person, both council and the mayor's office. So I just don't know.
I think we have it, if it's okay with Liz, I think we have it submit them to Liz and then she could share with my office. I'm not trying to volunteer more work for her, but that way, she can get it to all of you. And we have a time period which people apply, and then, or we could have it. We could set up an email account here and set it, and have somebody here, Kathleen or Monica, and then share with you. I agree with the thought, Sarah, that we need one central location. So whatever.
So I don't have a problem accepting them. Only, I think one centralized location should be used, especially for record keeping also. So, there's
Right.
no question of whether everyone was considered and that type of thing. So just my 2 cents.
So how about the applications are all submitted to our clerk of council, and she can provide us all, after the deadline, she can provide all of us the resumes. And then mayor, perhaps you'll pick out the 9 people you want to interview. Council will pick out the 9 people we want to interview. We can double check our list against each other. And if there is somebody who overlaps, we'll just make sure that both council and the mayor are present for that interview. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Well, you guys can interview your applicants and I'll talk to my applicants. I don't think it's something we're going to do collectively. And that's my understanding.
Wait,
And I'll
aren't they
let you
all,
know who I'm interviewing, so that way, if there's, but I didn't think that was something we'd be doing collectively.
I guess I only figured if both council and the mayor's administration picked Sarah Waring to come in and interview, it would be disrespectful for that person's time to have them interview twice. Whereas instead you could have both groups interview the person at once.
Well, I would let you know who I was interested in interviewing. And at that point, we can determine how to proceed.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
So, Sarah, do you believe we have the bones here to start drafting the ordinance to create the commission or the task force?
I do believe that we have the bones for it. We have a name, the Diversity and Inclusion Coalition. We have an objective to understand the topic of racism as it pertains to our city and make recommendations to promote diversity and inclusion. We know that it will be 9 members, 5 appointed by council, 4 appointed by the mayor, and they will choose their own chairperson. We know that they need to be a resident of the city of Fairview Park. They will meet at least once a month for a 2-year appointment, and that they will have to apply and then be interviewed for appointment. I think that this is great bones to get us started, to give them all of the opportunity to provide us the recommendations we need. So yes, I do believe we have that.
Okay, so we'll get the ordinance in the process.
Okay.
To create
Do I
the-
need to make a motion to do that, or are you?
Would it be an ordinance or a resolution?
I believe it would be an ordinance.
Well, either way, I feel like this was a great start, but
Oh, yeah.
I kind of think it would be good. At least this is how I feel about it at this point. I would like everything, Sarah, you just outlined to be typed up and then see it all in writing and review it again. And then next committee meeting, we come back and move on to it at that point.
Well, so I appreciate your feedback.
That can be put into draft ordinance form, as Greg just said, and you know, that could come to committee and we could continue evolving the ordinance itself, so.
Yeah, I think that that's the best way to do it. So I will send these notes. Do you want me to send these notes to Liz or to Director Riley? Who's the best person to start that legislation?
I'd say both. Tim will draft the legislation.
Yeah, and I'm
And,
leaning towards a resolution more than an ordinance, just so everybody knows. I think it's more appropriate as a resolution.
Is it? I know Lakewood had a resolution requesting the creation, but I believe the creation was actually an ordinance.
Ordinance, yeah.
I could be wrong. So
No, you're right.
it was an ordinance, Liz?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, either way, I think it will be good because I think we got a lot done. I think this is very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well then we will move forward with this task force, and I'm very excited about it that we were able to pull these down and really start to think about it.
Good job on this, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, nice job on the verbiage, Sarah. You work well on the fly.
Hey, I'm a marketer. That's what we do. We make stuff up, right?
And I'm sorry, I just misspoke. That Lakewood was a resolution. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a resolution that actually creates it. I have it right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I believe I am also speaking tonight about the resolution in support of issue 72 for the school district. And so I would like to open the floor. I know we had Superintendent Wagner come in last week and give us kind of a, heads up as to here is what the levy is. And I'd like to ask for any feedback or concerns regarding passing this resolution.
The levy has my full-hearted support.
Mine too.
Me too.
If there's anyone who would not want their name on the legislation, right now it's worded to be co-sponsored by council as a whole. If there's a reason that you would not want your name on it, just let Liz know and we can sort it out by people's names individually. Okay, so if that's the case, I think I'm through all of my stuff. Then I guess local government and community services ends at 8:17 p.m.
Sorry, what are you gonna do with the resolution? You put it on reading, or what are you gonna do with it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to put that on second, subsequent third passage. So Mike?
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Bill?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah, yes. Bridget?
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Now local government and community services can be over at 8:18. Thank you.
I just have a quick note. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That putting that on second, subsequent, third, and then that's fine, but that would actually be putting it up for passage literally the day before the levy is up for the vote. So I don't know I mean, if you're fine with that, that's fine. I know Dr. Wagner had requested a copy of the past ordinance. So I'm just putting that out there for time frame purposes to let you guys know that literally that will be the day before.
All right, I move that we pass it on second reading.
All right, so then, all right, move that we pass it on second reading. All right, so then Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah, yes. Bridget,
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
All right, so then let's pass that on second reading. It passes by 6-0. And can we end now at 8:19? Did I do it?
Liz, thanks so much for being on the ball as usual.
Yes, thank you, Liz.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Liz.
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call the order the Environmental Public Works Planning and Zoning Development Committee for Monday, October 12th. There's two agenda items, 20-30, rezoning parcel number 321-29-027 from GBA to GBB, and the issue of Fairview Park Codified Ordinance 13.05 garbage receptacles. I welcome everybody's participation. If you request to speak, please identify yourself for the meeting minutes. On September 16, 2020, the Planning Design Commission held a meeting to discuss Traditional Brand Development Partners, LLC. Christopher Eberhard, applicant, submitted plans for new construction, Jiffy Lube facility, and referred to council for review for zoning change per section 14, article 4 of the city charter. The Planning Design Commission ruled to approve the construction as presented. It was a decision of the commission to refer the docket item to council for review for zoning change per section 14, article 4 of the city charter. Council Clerk Westbrook presented a tentative schedule for the rezoning. The schedule has 10 steps, and we are at step number 4. After this evening's discussion, a motion to place on second reading and refer to the Planning Design Commission for report and recommendation we made for the October 19th, 2020 City Council meeting. At this time, I'd like to discuss ordinance 20-38, amending the zone map of the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, by rezoning the area described herein from General Business A, GBA, General Business B, GBB, which is the vacant land between the last building of the shopping center and the westerly entrance exit of Fairview Park Shopping Center off Lorraine Road. The discussion will pertain to the merits of the proposed rezoning. The floor is open. Any comments on the rezoning issue? The council? The door is
Yes.
open.
Go ahead.
Greg,
Yes, Chris, you're the applicant?
Yes.
How you doing?
Yes, sir. Good, very good.
Good. Well, hey, I
We're here
appreciate
with architect Victor Olson and our civil engineer, Andy Berenberg, as well. So they're going to really kind of carry the meeting as far as questions, but I'm here just knowing less technical. And it's nice to meet everybody, and thank you for your time tonight. I know it's must be, well, about 8:20 right now. We're on the different coastlines here. But thanks for your time as well, all of you.
are you in California, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
All the team is, Vic is in Phoenix, Andy's in Minnesota, and the construction crew and everybody else is in Cleveland.
Okay, thank you. Any
Can
questions?
I ask you guys a big question to start with? How did you come across this property for sale?
We came across it from our broker over at Goodman. They've been looking in the market for us for a couple of years, and I think it was one of the CV guys that had it listed, and it was the Lamar had the pad they carved out about a year ago. They parcelized it. It's the area right next to Get Go, and then just got a marketing flyer and looked at it, and we moved right on it. I wasn't super familiar with it. My father is and my mom are both from Cleveland and grandparents, and so I used to ride his bike there and drive by there, every day in North Olmsted and or Westlake, one of those two, and other parts of Cleveland. So as soon as I got to just investigate it as well, as I liked it more than just Google gives you a quick view and things like that. You kind of see it from a helicopter view, but walking the area, it's really I liked it, and I'd like to be part of the community. I think we'd be good contribution too.
Well, yeah, we definitely want to, thank you for wanting to invest and bring something to the city. It's always good to see good development moving forward. Just out of curiosity, how many times have you visited the site?
I have been by that one. Let's see. 2 or 3.
2 or 3 times. Okay.
But as far as I think it might have been more like 5, but I didn't really notice it. I've been on the Lorraine Road a few times. But the general area is many times, probably 15 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
And but that street, probably a couple specifically walking around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know one of the concerns that's going to come up, at least in this particular area, has pertaining to the traffic. And traffic, I'm sure, is something that you have encountered numerous times in any of the projects going forward. And because there's a double light where 220 is, and then at that light is there any ideas of how to approach that or thoughts on that?
I have the experts here to kind of take that one. Andy or Vic?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Mayor, Council, Andrew Berenberg, civil engineer. So the architect and I haven't visited the site, but we've been investigating the site, looking at that double light condition and how it would affect traffic. I mean, to be honest, it's an existing condition, right? When this proposed shopping center was put into place, there was a vacant lot that was left, a remnant lot. That remnant lot at some time would be developed. This is not a condition that we're looking for a super amount of traffic. We're looking at maybe 50 to 75 users on a daily basis. It's not a high traffic volume user. Looking at how traffic would be coming in, obviously they'd be coming in at that stoplight. They would be leaving at that stoplight. I really don't see traffic as a major issue with this development. There's already a left turn pocket for any users coming off Lorraine to make a left turn. So I see it as a safe condition. And as far as exiting goes, again, we have a stoplight. Having the 2 stoplights next to each other is not an ideal condition. But again, it's not a condition that we created, nor is it a condition that we look at changing, right? We're not looking at eliminating that light. It's there, it serves a purpose. If really need be, we could do a traffic study, but I don't really see that adding this user is going to be adding that much traffic. It's not like the gas station next door that probably has, 300 users a day. We're looking at a user that has a minor traffic footprint.
Okay,
usually about 30. 30 is a good day. 40 is an excellent day. 25 is normal.
Okay, and so before landing on this particular site as being a potential destination for the Jiffy Lube, were there any others in the areas that you came across and considered, or is there anything that stuck out more about this one than maybe another one?
Well, we're looking all over the Northeast and Northwest of Ohio. We're trying to get them in a certain area within 3 miles of each other. The main reason is just you need a group of about 5, and at least that's always how it's always been with Jiffy Lube, for a manager can oversee a group of 5, an area manager. So since we already had one going in Avon, or in the Meyer parking lot, that should be closing in second week in November, the way it's going. We have been looking at that whole area. Fairview is just the one. It was right. It was on our map, and so it's Avon, Fairview, North Olmsted, and it's trying to get and really blank that area at the moment.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, and definitely I already said this, but definitely appreciate all of the interest. And the only reason why I kind of asked it in that particular fashion is because there is a lot on Lorraine Road, just down the road from this particular one, that I don't think is going to be on any brokerage because I don't think there's any listing on it. It is on our city's lots for sale, and it's a city-owned lot. And for the people that are listening from Fairview, it's right next to Minotti's. It's a vacant lot. And so that's why I didn't know if you looked at possibly that one as well, or any others in the city. Because this one is long, it's deep, and there's no double light out front. And so, what I said about the traffic possibly being a concern, it's much more accessible. There's less curb cuts nearby. And I didn't know if you had came across that or seen that one at all.
Excuse me.
I think I saw that one. Maybe on the way out, I might have seen some. We do like there's something that's usually in existence, but one of our model is going with it's Jiffy Lube's new model is with synthetic oils got really good. So instead of every 3,000 miles, it went to every 10,000. And so for the last decade, they've been transitioning into something called multi-care. So it's all still Jiffy Lube. You're in and out in a jiffy, and really quick function on wearables and that approach.
Shut up, fucking bitch.
Hello?
What was that?
I think there's some people that are.
Shut the fuck up. This happened on zoning and appeals earlier this afternoon as well.
Yeah, I think they're hacking the meeting.
Shut up, stupid.
Let me go on. The answer is we searched for an anchor center versus just more of a smaller corner. These are larger projects. Comfortable meeting.
Stupid.
This is larger waiting room. There are 4 bays that handle all drive through. The 2 just do nothing but oil, and the others are for the other type of items, mostly brakes and so on. That was a little distracting, but
yeah, that was. I apologize. We've never had that before in one of our meetings. That has never happened. So
I think the issue is not for this use, because and I think Commissioner Maynard's on. If this property is rezoned, it could be it's the other potential uses that might go there. It's not, the business model here may not be a lot of traffic. If it's rezoned to what's being requested, there's the potential for a lot of traffic with those uses. And then Walt can probably speak to what those might be. That is a very congested corner. I drive it all the time, at least 2 or 3 times a day. We have a school just north of there. We have a lot of students coming down 220, coming down Lorraine. And I really have a lot of concerns with the traffic impact this rezoning. I'm just talking about the rezoning, what it might have to that corner. And I think that's something that needs to be studied. I think it could be very dangerous. You have, these are primary students that are walking, riding their bikes. You got a lot of kids from the high school going down Lorraine. I mean, there's a lot of students in that area. It's not too far from the high school, the middle school. I mean, it's a major intersection there, 220 in Lorraine. And I think, based on how close that light is coming out of that parcel, and the congestion that's there now, it needs to be studied from a safety standpoint.
Mayor,
Chairman,
if I may, prior to your McDonald's was going to take that lot. So reference to the amount of traffic, can you visualize McDonald's being at that particular location?
They were going to, but they didn't. So
Or because they stopped all future planning and development.
well, again, I think it needs to be studied. I think it's a safety issue for the pedestrians. A lot of them are students. I think that's something that should be studied, and I would ask that be
Yeah,
done.
and that second light is definitely one of nobody likes that second light. There's been discussions in previous meetings about when the Lorraine Road corridor study. There was once a study that was looked at some of the light and the timing, and I think that was one of the ones deemed one of the most unnecessary lights, or I can't remember how they worded it, but it got a lot of criticism, that particular light.
Chairman Minnick.
Can't there be helpful for pedestrians, especially if people are, if a good day is 25 cars over a 10 to 12 hour period, that is not a lot of increased traffic. And if you have a light there, that would only help.
That's for this potential user. You may not, this user may not be there forever. So
Okay.
if it's rezoned, then you might have other, and Commissioner Maynard could speak to the potential uses if it's rezoned. So I think you need to look at it, not just, and I agree with Greg. I appreciate these gentlemen looking in our community to invest. I know we've seen the quality of work that they've provided to us. And I appreciate that, but I also, we can't just, there's this, nothing's permanent, except the rezoning. The rezoning can be changed, but again, I think we have to look at not this user, but the potential uses going forward if it's rezoned. And if it's okay with Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minnick, if Walt speaks to that, I think that'd be helpful to the discussion.
Commissioner Wall, you present?
Present, sir. 113704 is what this would be changed zoning the general business B, and that would include any main uses with automotive, anything related to automotive sales, repair, maintenance, drive-ins, drive-throughs, anything related to vehicles. This would be zoned to permit permitted uses in the main building. Accessory buildings would still be the same as general business A. Any of our retail, any of our offices, any of our customers areas, our sewing shops, our resale shops, our restaurants, general business A. General business B brings the whole aspect of vehicles into that parcel. Get-Go is in fact general business B. The remainder of that plaza, the remaining acreage is all general business A. There'd be nothing permitted there related to anything automotive. The few general business Bs that we have in our community are all, as far as I know, being used in the automotive district. That's the opportunity for that to be there. On Center Ridge, we have a couple. And on Lorraine, we have, a dozen or so. And, the drive-throughs permitted then. The most recent zoning question was the drive-through at the East Coast Custard. That was permitted with the drive-through there, and that was actually mandatory by that developer. So I think the opportunity for general business B is bringing in the opportunity for other businesses, all automotive related.
So here's my question. Jiffy Lube cannot go in if it is not rezoned. They cannot qualify as general A, correct? Well,
That's correct. It is an automotive use.
So they can't just, it's not a matter of they can change oil in that site under general A, but they cannot change a tie rod under general B. Like, it's a matter of it's either all or nothing. It's not a
That's
matter of
correct.
which.
Yeah, anything related to automotive is only permitted in general business B. That's correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, Council, Andrew Berenberg again, I just don't see how converting to general business B would, from A to B, would add a whole lot of traffic in the future, or danger of having an automotive zoning, and especially right next to a gas station, unless that gas station were to expand into a multiplex gas station, but you wouldn't put another gas station that would be a high traffic generator right next to a already gas station. I just don't see a big traffic generator from general business B versus the general business A. I think the general business A, with the opportunity to put a McDonald's or some other food user there that may have 200 trips per day versus an automotive use that's going to be, if it's not a Jiffy Lube, a transmission shop or a tire shop or something like that, that would be another low volume.
Yeah, well, the one reason why a traffic study would be helpful is because the intersection already there is less than ideal. Even if with nothing there, it's still not a good traffic situation. So adding anything is going to change that, just because currently existing, it's less than desirable.
Greg,
we're looking at rezoning. We're not looking at other users. We're just zoning's the topic right now. The traffic light is not the topic. It's just, is rezoning for this area right next to general business B, having a general business B next to a general business B, is that a legitimate use for that property?
So if I may weigh in without interruption this time, Greg, I don't disagree with you that traffic light is an annoyance to those in the city. But what I will say is there used to be other businesses in that area. The traffic light is a function of when the other businesses were in that area. So essentially, that lot should be set up to allow for this kind of traffic. So I'm not against seeing a traffic study, but I believe that light is there to accommodate that. In regards to Walt saying that, this opens up the ability for any other car-related business, I think worst case scenario, Jiffy Lube goes in there, Jiffy Lube goes out of business, Get-Go expands, and we get a larger Get-Go. I don't think you're going to see a buy here, pay here lot. I don't think you're going to see, anything other than either a Jiffy Lube or competitor of Jiffy Lube or small garage, which we are littered with in our city. Or you're going to see an expansion of Get-Go across the way to build a bigger area. So if what the administration wants is a traffic study, that's fine. My bigger concern is, are we harming our local businesses by allowing a chain into the city? So, how does that affect some of the other groups in the city, such as Drella Shacks? Are we taking away their business for people who actually live here, pay taxes here, both income, property, etc., and in favor of a chain? And that's my bigger concern with and I guess it shouldn't relate to rezoning it, but because it's a chain going in, I guess it does. So I think it would be in our best interest to understand. You've said there's about 30 to 60 cars going through there in a day. What is the average receipt that Jiffy Lube writes? So, are we talking all oil changes, or are we talking massive car overhauls?
Average ticket it depends on different parts of the country, but 85 is a safe range. 85 to 100. It's not just oil. It's a 50 point. It's a much more modern assessment of the car. So, but 85, and then they're just tends to be the teeter-totter. A little, sometimes discounting gets more tickets in, but again, we figure about 25 is a really pretty solid number for Jiffy. A high-end one would be in the 40s. That would be winning awards type. It's that different. A lot of them get the places will work.
Thank you for that.
I'll go back to my earlier comment. I think it's a safety issue. And it's not, we're not talking about this use. We're talking about whatever potential use can go in there. And, my understanding, it was a gym before. There's, but.
Excuse me, Pat.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was Revco was down there for years. You had Revco, and then above it you had Personally Fit Gym. Yeah, so that's what it always had been. I wish it was. It still was. It was. Fortunately, when CVS came to town, they basically shut Revco down, and that building was vacant forever.
And that the sidewalks there, are not. They're a little questionable as well. So I just think from a safety issue, I think it's important that be done.
Mayor Pat?
Hey, Andy? Never mind. That was good.
Yes, Maureen?
Just going back, as far as the traffic goes, as Fairview's trying to attract businesses, within the Fairview shopping plaza there, as Mike referenced, there was previously, a Revco there. There was also a grocery store that, prior to the whole change, there were filled up businesses. There was a lot more traffic there, years ago. And because of all the loss of business, the traffic has subsided. I think, it's the idea of bringing in a business, be it a Jiffy Lube or something else, should there be a situation where traffic becomes such an issue that we would, is there a crossing guard, during the school hours at that intersection? I mean, if we were ever in a situation that we needed one, we could employ one. But I think also what we do want to see is the Lorraine Road corridor attract more businesses. And as much as I love the idea of all local business, one of our problems, I know from being on council back in the 90s, was that the 44126 zip code didn't even come up on a lot of the, chain businesses registry. It either jumped to Rocky River or North Olmsted. So we lost many opportunities to attract businesses that just didn't even know we were out there. So, that's what I'm trying to think about too, as far as, how can we build up Lorraine Road and attract businesses, but at the same time maintain safety. So, there could be the need to put a traffic guard, during the school hours, if ever it were such an issue.
Yeah, then we would have to pay. We'd have to pay for that. We being the city, because the city pays for traffic guards, not the school. And I can't. I think I drive by there all the time. If I'm going home, when I'm leaving home to come to City Hall, I drive that intersection and vice versa. And as Greg mentioned, it's a very congested location. There's a lot of students, and I really can't emphasize enough that I think it's important that there be a traffic study for the safety of our residents or safety of our students. A lot of whom are primary students. And I agree. I mean, I appreciate people being willing to invest here, but we also have to protect the safety of our residents, and that's what I'm looking to do.
It just seems like a perfect fit. The only reason why I brought up the property next to Minotti's, that just seems like a perfect location, and I don't know if it ever got considered.
Yeah, that probably would be better.
I mean, that is a perfect spot. I mean, even on the city's website, it's showing a list price of $119 for that big parcel.
All right, but we're talking about rezoning this area.
Bill, are you out there?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Can I ask Chris a question, please?
Go ahead.
Chris, Mike Kilbane, thank you for considering the investment in our city. You mentioned you had local construction people here. I was just wondering who that is.
We're using a JL Moore on the next first round of projects, probably all of them, the way it's going.
J.L. Moore, did you say?
JL Moore in North Royalton. They built a lot. They built the Burger King over in Avon. I think it was I just saw a photo of it. I think it just opened. But a lot of the Burger Kings and quick serve restaurants. That's kind of their niche, not really big stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again for looking at our city.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Vic, go ahead. Vic is our architect, Vic Olson.
Councilman Minnick, may I speak?
Sure.
President Kilbin, Cooney, as a couple of suggestions, possibly signing the exiting traffic, which would not only address the Jiffy Lube traffic, but the rest of the traffic that's at this site, to watch for pedestrians before they enter that driveway. From the exiting side would be a way to help traffic coming out of the site to be more cognizant of pedestrians along the sidewalk. And then I don't know that the city can enforce this with your infrastructure to ask for walkway crossing signalization. Might be another way to address that. And then lastly, I have on my screen, if you'd like to see it, you questioned, Mayor Cooney, the other potential users. So the only things that are really added in the B classification would be auto uses and then drive-through facilities, which would be food or things like that, drive-through food. And I would think that the council has the opportunity with the ordinance to add in there that this request would be either site plan specific or subject to no changes or general conformance to the site plan that's submitted, which would pretty much identify this particular use. And any changes would then require an amendment to the zoning, which would come back to you.
Well, is that the case? I think it's open once it's rezoned.
I don't know that part. And Director Riley, like a conditional use, I'm not familiar with putting any limitations on a B use. Like that, it's only one user. We do have opportunity for conditional uses, but that's for future legislation. I'm not familiar with the ordinance that would be part of.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying about a conditional use. That's not what this would be.
No sound here.
What's that? So, I mean, to limit this to one business, I have never seen that. It's something I guess we could research legally, but you know, that may be that might be something difficult to enforce. You know, once it's rezoned, I think somebody could come in and argue that it's been rezoned a certain way and we have a right to use it that way. I've never seen a qualification put on something like that.
I agree.
Councilman Minnick, may I speak?
Mr. Olson.
Councilman Riley, Mayor Cooney, what I was recommending is that you stipulate with the application that it be site plan specific. That in my world would basically say that if somebody wants to put a different kind of use on there that was more intensive, for instance, a drive-through fast food facility, that would have to come back to you because that would not be in conformance with the site plan that you approve with the zoning case. I wasn't recommending, suggesting, limiting any particular use by name or type, because I believe Mayor Cooney is correct that once you allow it, then the uses that would be approved through your process, which includes planning and design, would have to then go back through that if it was site plan specific. We use that terminology like often. It's approved in general conformance with the submitted site plan, which I could put on the screen if you'd like to see it.
Thank you for the comment. I refer that comment to Director Riley.
So I couldn't hear you, Bill. I mean, what I would say in that, I mean, it sounds more like what you're referring to is more like almost a variance, as opposed to, I mean, what you're doing is you are rezoning this section of land to allow for specific uses. And to make it more specific, I'm looking at more of what you're talking about as a variance in the code, which is a totally different avenue. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily see how you could rezone this property and then tell somebody else who buys the property, well, no, you can't use it for that, even though it's been rezoned that way. I think that would run it. You would run into some serious legal issues down the road. That would be my guess.
Thank you. Smith, are you, Todd Smith?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, do you have a comment, Todd?
Yeah, do I have to turn my video on?
I have no control on that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Todd.
Okay. Todd Smith, 4211 West 212th Street, Fairview Park, Ohio. Thank you for letting me speak today as a resident. Oh, there I am. First of all, thank you for you guys considering our city to come in here for a business. We're always looking for new developments. And as you guys talked about, switching from general business A to general business B basically just opens it up to automotive. General business A seems like it encompasses anything else that might go onto that site. So as you know, rezoning can shape the future of our city. And as you know, we've had multiple studies done on the Lorraine Road, the Lorraine Road corridor studies. A lot of you have been involved in a lot of this stuff. And the results, a lot of those studies wanted to have the downtown area, which had been identified as like 210 to 220, is more walkable, more drivable, more pedestrian friendly, and looking for places that are their destinations, green spaces, places for people to go. And that's one good quality of Fairview Park is that it's small. So it's very walkable along the Lorraine Road. In the plaza right there, it has been identified, whether some like it or not, as kind of our downtown area there. So right now there's retail in that plaza, there's food services, there's personal services. So I think there are a lot of vacancies in that plaza. So I think the businesses up there might be looking for something like a destination, somewhere to go, some places to go. So I guess my concern in this rezoning would be the appearance of, and nothing against, a Jiffy Lube and oil change places. Those are needed. Those are services that are needed. But just the appearance of an oil change place along the Lorraine Road. Would there be things sitting outside, barrels of oil? Is there going to be, air wrenches going off, like that, different sounds happening? Is this a good fit for our downtown area in Lorraine Road? And I think that's what we need to be, even before the traffic studies, we need to be looking at, is this the vision of our downtown for Fairview Park? Because as you know, rezoning can really shape our future, as you've done with the mixed, we passed the mixed use, and that's what had to go before the voters. And now we've got this great NASA property that's going to be developed over there. So that's the bonuses of these rezoning issues that we have. So my concern would be, is this in the best interest of Fairview Park in our downtown area and what we want to see to have an automotive service in this location? And again, nothing against the business, just looking out for the residents, for Fairview Park and for our downtown area. Once we change this, yeah, we can switch it back, but like's been talked about, if something would happen and Jiffy Lube would go out, then we get another, service shop in here that might not be desirable. We'd have to go back and change the zoning. So I guess, just looking at this, that would be my concern as a resident, is our vision to change this development to business B, which would be more automotive into this area. My personal opinion would be, no, it is not. But that's just my input, and I appreciate you guys. I've been around in that plaza for a long time, so if you want to talk about traffic, I can tell you all kinds of things about traffic up there. But that's just my personal opinion. I think that's what I would ask you as a resident to look at, is this within our vision of our downtown area in our redevelopment to have this type of business there? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Any additional comments reference to part It's 20-38, the rezoning.
I do, Bill.
Go ahead, Council President.
It's just a comment on the ordinance itself. I didn't think the procedure was kind of laid out in section 1. It doesn't mention the fact that the ordinance itself needs to pass for this zoning to be approved. Basically just states that after publication of notice of hearing, 30 days, which has been published at least once a week, 2 consecutive weeks in a Fairview Park newspaper. I'd just like to move that we insert before that upon passage of this ordinance and a favorable recommendation of the Planning and Design Commission into that section 1.
On passage of this ordinance?
And a favorable recommendation of the Planning and Design Commission. I just feel that it really wasn't clear in the wording there.
That, Council President, that's why when originally we put this up, I thought we should have waited, that you should have a recommendation over here before you put an ordinance up, because you were really discussing whether you're going to put this up as an ordinance at this point. And that was my recommendation on how this thing should have proceeded.
Okay.
But, but this is what council wanted, just so you know, okay?
Yeah, but we wanted an ordinance, but I also wanted to state in the ordinance that I mean, this is all contingent on passage of the ordinance, and not just, it just didn't state that anywhere in there. So
We can make that amendment prior to call for passage, correct, Council President?
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Any additional comments reference to ordinance 20-38? At this time, I move to place ordinance 2038 on second reading and refer to the Planning and Design Commission for report and recommendation.
A second.
You don't need a second in committee. You call roll.
Oh, Mike,
Yes.
myself, yes. Maureen,
Yes.
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 No.
five yeses. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Reference your input this evening.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. The next item, codified ordinance is 1325.05 garbage receptacles. Bridget, you requested us refer to committee. Have any input?
I requested it to go into committee because I, along with Mayor Cooney, we've been receiving emails from a particular resident complaining about being able to see garbage cans from the street. So I said all I could do is bring it before council for us to discuss to see if this is an ordinance that needs to remain as is, or if it's something that we should change. It's my understanding when they go out and do their inspections, then letters go out telling the homeowners of the ordinance and that they are not complying with it, and give them a date to move their garbage cans. But after that, there's no real enforcement. I think that this is something that's probably very hard to enforce. And I think that it's something that maybe we should look to either get rid of or change the wording of. if it's not going to be something that we enforce. I can't hear you. I apologize, Bill. I didn't hear what you just said.
Mr. Maynard was still with us.
Walt's still here.
Yeah, Walt's here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We have 6 emails that came in today. I believe all members of council have copies. I can read all 6 of them.
I didn't get 6. I think I only got 2.
I have 6 here.
Are 6? Are you saying like it's all one email chain, but the same email, just like replies and all that?
Well, I have from 6 different residents.
6 different residents.
6 different residents.
Uh,
It all pertains to the same issue, reference to where you store your refuse containers. Now, codified ordinance is very specific. And the questions that these residents are posing is the fact that maybe we should change the verbiage on the codified ordinance. I'm looking for input. Anybody have any suggestions reference to this particular issue?
I'd be fine amending it.
I definitely don't want us just to get rid of it because that just opens the door for people to have garbage cans anywhere. I know I had to deal with Walt earlier where we had asked a resident, to move his garbage cans. They didn't do it, for a week. Then you ask them again. Then they finally did it. But then a month later, they left them out again. And that's where I know Walt informed me, you're kind of just appealing to their, good neighbor policy, within the city. And if people don't do it, it is hard to enforce, but we still want to strive to maintain a good appearance in our city. So probably what Bridget, I believe, was proposed, maybe we need to change the wording somehow because it is hard to enforce, but I don't want us just to get rid of it.
There are
I don't know what other
actually,
people think.
if I may, counsel, there's another section that that we do get a lot of complaints on is people put it out early or don't take them back, and that is a 52105 enforced by the police, and the penalties are there very particular in that section. The 132505 is where they store them at, how they're stored, and it's a very challenging situation for us because there's only 2 days that we can actually enforce that out of the week because Mondays are put out, Tuesdays are still out. When they are put back, our offices are not here. We're not out on the streets on Tuesday night. Wednesday, we have the opportunity, part of the day, Thursday and Friday. The opportunity for us to manage where they're storing them at will change every week. They may put them away after we send that notice. The next week, they may not put them back away. Maybe there's too much snow and they can't get it in the garage. Maybe, there's a lot of opportunities there for not enforce it, but to maybe miss it on that short window we have to enforce it. And we do send the notices at a complaint on it. And then when we do our property maintenance inspections, if they're visible from the street, we do send a notice or we leave them a door knocker. If they're out, we will talk to them and explain to them that they, by ordinances, they should be stored indoors or out of view. They put them out of view, and some of our ranch homes, Ward 5, they put them out of view, and then they're not in compliance with the side yard requirements. Or not. There's a number of different requirements there where they can be out of view, but then they're obnoxious to the neighbors at 10 foot from the side yard lines or rear yard lines. It's a very challenging enforcement for us to maintain that ordinance, and we do it. But again, as soon as next week comes, it's a whole nother situation. As an owner myself, hey, I had a bad day at work today. I'll get them tomorrow morning. Oh, now I can't get them all the way in the garage because my kid's car's in the way. There's an opportunity there for a lot of things to happen, and it's a garbage can.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to see them. We shouldn't see them, but there's a lot of opportunity there for it to be, that law to be broken.
Have other people received complaints about this issue? Other council members?
I have.
The situation you just described?
I haven't received a complaint, but I did, I guess it would be an indirect complaint. I was with a couple of people that live in this particular neighborhood, and they were not the complainer, but they were complaining about the complainer, if that makes sense. So just kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, that it's, they don't really care. It seems like only one person in that neighborhood has a problem with it, and some other people don't care about it being on the side of their garage rather than in the garage.
Well, as Walt said, it is a difficult thing to enforce, and do some, and with respect to the particular situation, the person has been talked to. It was moved a few times, and then for whatever reason, it comes back. And I think the change, and I know, depending upon the time of year, a lot of people may not want garbage in their garage. It's a difficult thing for them to, some people to navigate too, if they have trouble moving it. So, again, with respect to enforcement, it's, Walt and his department are very busy. They did respond to this, not to the satisfaction of the person that contacted Councilmember King and myself, but they did respond to it, and I think I think if you looked at the house at issue, it's very well taken care of, and maybe in the winter time or in the fall, it might be in a different location.
The big concern is section B of 132505, where you store your refuse containers. The biggest negative is smell, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the comments were possibly on the side of the house. So again, you still got to be from the side property line or 5 feet from the rear property line. So again, you have so many feet from your neighbor to store your can. But the biggest thing is that they have to be concealed, which is not happening.
I think that's where most of the issues arise, where people do have them on the side of their house. I don't see very many people who have them in front of their homes. So but along the side of their house,
Or next to a garage.
Correct. Yeah, and the concealing. If you have a tree in the spring and the summer, it can conceal it because it's full, but in the fall and the winter, it's not. I never really thought about it till Walt mentioned it, but there are a lot of homes I think in Ward 5 and Ward 2 that are pretty close together. So you do have the property line issues that come up. So it's a difficult, and a diverse, different styles of home, different styles of neighborhoods. It's tough to enforce.
Chairman Minnick, may I weigh in?
Sure, go ahead, Sam.
Thank you. So I think this is a question perhaps of and it's going to be a judgment call, but it's a judgment call perhaps Walt could weigh in a little bit more on. Do we believe that this is blatant disregard on the homeowner's behalf of a known ordinance? Or do we believe that, and not this specific situation, I'm talking across the board in the city, because I would not change an ordinance based on one complainant, but I would change it based on what's happening citywide. Do we believe it's blatant disregard for this ordinance, a known ordinance, or do we believe it's simply that most people in this city have not sat down and read all of our codified ordinances and don't even realize that there are these rules for how we present our garbage cans? And so I guess that's the first thing. Do we need to educate and believe that people have the best intentions? Or do we have to believe that people are blatantly disregarding it? And Walt, you deal with more letters than I've ever dealt with. You know, when you actually talk to the residents, how many of them say, you know, I just didn't know?
I would say that is relatively a low number that don't know. I think once there's one person that sees it out, you know, the next person, oh, that's a good place to put it. It's, you know, next to my garage. You can't really see it when we pull in. It doesn't really affect anybody. I think that most people know, and it's not lack of lazy. And again, our garages in our community are 20 by 20, attached or detached, doesn't matter. That is 1.5 cars. Once you get your bikes in there, once you get everything else in there, you take those spots up for that can as well. It's a tough one. I can only speak for myself on what I believe, and the community I live in has the same rules, and I'm a violator.
The thing is, there's inconsistent enforcement. Every single neighborhood, there has someone that's in violation of this rule. Every neighborhood of the city,
That's a fact.
And I mean, if you wanted to have the building department do nothing else but police this, I mean, then they might be able to do it. But I would be fine amending it, because it does seem that, and this is what I think is the kind of the sad part is, it seems like when there's not a good relationship between the neighbors, that's when it kind of surfaces. I mean, people that get along with their neighbors, well, I don't think this is really ever a problem, because I don't think you're ever going to enforce it. So I would be fine with amending it if we want to keep it in committee and talk about it next meeting.
Chairman Minnick, may I speak?
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. So there's a slippery slope if we amend this to say that it's no longer needing to be stored where it's not visible, right? Right now, we have some people in the city who are not abiding by this ordinance.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
Well, right. But if we now get rid of the ordinance, there's no enforcement opportunity whatsoever. I mean, I could literally leave one on my front step day and night, and there's nothing the city can do about it. At least in this case, we do have enforcement opportunities when people are egregiously violating it. And we have the opportunity to talk to and cite people as we see them elsewise. I'd be really concerned about amending or removing this ordinance, because it leaves us no way to work with people who are now egregiously violating what used to be but is now not an ordinance. And do we really want people to have the ability with no repercussion to leave their garbage can wherever they want? That's the situation that we could end up in.
I know, it's the big fear, the Armageddon of garbage cans.
We could amend the language, you know, to, I mean, what are people comfortable with? You know, you know, do you not want it in the front yard? Do you not want it in the garage, in front of the garage? You know, I mean, you know, I don't know if there's, Walt, I don't know if there's a definition in the code for front yard. I mean, again, I understand your point, Sarah, you know, because it could just, you know, people could, you know, just leave it in the middle of their yard or driveway, but, you know, but I don't know if again, I don't know if that's not going to help from an enforcement standpoint. Walt, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, I think a wholesale repeal may not be the answer, but I don't know if the answer is some sort of an amendment.
The information that I,
Bill, we cannot hear you.
me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Emails I received, some residents are okay with placing the receptacles in a side yard instead of the garage or the backyard. Well, I'm not sure if that could be an amendment to the legislation, that they're allowed in the side yard, but once again, if it's in a side yard, it has to be screened from your neighbors. Commissioner Maynard, do you have any additional comments reference to this issue?
I do not, Councilman. Thank you. I think maybe I put too much faith in the human race and everybody respecting their properties and not wanting to do it. I was not part of the original ordinance that was drafted or approved, but there's always a few bad apples, and I think most people do appreciate the community they live in and would not want to look at it. I think a lot of the instances that we have is just where they have the convenience of storing them, or where they can easily access them to deposit their trash and easily access them to get them to the street. It's unfortunate if you live on a corner lot. These people really have a problem by our ordinances. They can't keep them in their side or their front yard by our ordinances. So, like, if we could get them in a side yard, as far back away from the street as we can. But again, Ward 5, Ward 2, that's going to be 5 foot from a neighbor's bedroom window in the summertime. So there's a number of things we have to take into consideration when you're looking at this ordinance. I don't know an answer for this one. If I did, I'd help you out. I don't have an answer.
Additional comments?
I think I appreciate Walt's obviously input. I think we look, we'll look around, see if there's some other communities that have addressed this issue and see if we can come up with, I mean, if it's okay with council, I mean, unless that you want to, end the discussion today, but, maybe we'll look for some other alternatives.
Can't hear you, Bill.
We couldn't hear you, Bill.
We can't hear you.
I think he said he'd like to have this issue remain in committee, and then he was going to go for a vote.
No, we can't. Bill, did you tap a button or something? Because we really can't hear you at all now. Like before we could hear you barely, but now we can't hear you at all.
A little bit. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I move that this issue remain in committee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation and your input. Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zone Development meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, good job. Thank you to all the chairs tonight. Boards and commissions reports. Bill, do you have anything? No? Okay. Maureen?
No, I do not.
Sarah?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Bridget?
No, thank you.
Greg?
Nothing.
Bill, do you have anything for roundtable?
I just want to thank everybody this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen, do you have anything for roundtable?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have anything for roundtable?
No, not this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Bridget, do you have anything for roundtable?
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Greg, do you have anything for roundtable?
Nothing.
Liz, do you have anything you want to share with council this evening?
I do not.
All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn our standing committee meetings for this evening. Everyone have a good night.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys. Good night. Good night, Mayor.
Good night.